Hi, beautiful. I wanted to talk a little bit about my own story and why Reiki has really helped me. I don't feel like I probably share this enough, but I do certainly get asked why Reiki and how did you get into this work and how did you get into Reiki? So I was always, I guess, really interested in the mystical and the mythical kind of side of things. I was very interested in spirituality since I was a little girl. I was fascinated with religion and spirituality in general. I was fascinated by crystals, tarot cards. I loved going into those magical shops, fairies, dragons. I was really interested in other realms always. And I think that I was a very sensitive child. And I know that, emotionally, I felt a lot. And like many of us, I think that I was conditioned to not feel, and that, feeling and showing emotion probably wasn't the best thing to do. Not to cause a scene or not to show others how you are. All of that is really important, I think, looking back now and seeing the trajectory that I went on. So, um, coming to my teen years, probably from around the age of 14, 15, I started to really fall into depression and suffer from anxiety, and I would say body dysmorphia. So I started really feeling like I was not not enough, not good enough, not pretty enough, not skinny enough. And certainly that was a played a really big role in my teenage years in terms of the influence that it had on me, and the choices and decisions that I made throughout that time. So I really disconnected from that spiritual part of who I was. And I disconnected from my inner joy. And I started to really look outside of myself for that validation and that approval about who I am and, how I fit in the world, which is very much what you'd expect of, a teenager. It's not until we hit about 13, 14 that our third eye is actually developing. And this governs our area of self-image. So what is essentially happening at that time is that we just, by our very nature of development and, growing up, we are questioning who we are and how we fit in this world and, what that all means. So that's exactly what was happening during that time in my life. And it sort of put me on this downhill spiral, I guess, throughout my later teen years and then early 20s. The 20s were definitely the darkest time of my life. So I look back on my 20s and I think I had a lot of fun, as in, I traveled the world and I lived overseas and I partied a lot and did, a whole heap of stuff that I look back now and I think, wow, I had a really good time from the outside. I was, very successful in my career. I was working in marketing, and then later on I moved into change management as a consultant, and I was doing really, really well. And relationship wise, I don't think, I wouldn't say that I ever really struggled in terms of like finding a boyfriend or partners and that sort of thing. But I had relationships, but nothing was really fulfilling in terms of, I can certainly look back now and see that they're just so beautiful, trauma bonding relationships, and really I was attracting exactly what I felt like I deserved. And it wasn't until, I probably reached about 27, 28, so coming into Saturn return, that I started to get really serious about, I guess, making some headway on my own self-growth and development, and really wanting to change how I was living. And the biggest change that I wanted to make was that I actually wanted to start living. So I didn't feel like I was really, living a fulfilling and meaningful life. I felt like everything was really surface level. I wanted some depth in my life, and I also had an incredible amount of self-hatred towards myself, self-neglect, disconnected completely from who I was. And I was so disconnected from my emotional self as well, as my spiritual self, and even my physical body. I just wished so much that I could look like somebody else, that I could be somebody else. There were many days where I didn't get out of bed. There were many days that I felt like, the social anxiety was really full on. And there were days I wouldn't go to work. And the weekends were the hardest for me. And I know that this is quite common when certainly with people with eating disorders, but I know it's quite common with people in general with mental health issues, where the weekend feels so much harder than the weekday, because during the week you have job, you have structure, you have stuff to do and things to do, whereas when we reach the weekend, it's sort of, we don't know what to do, and you sort of are so disconnected from yourself, you actually have no idea how to cope, how to live. So, there were some weekends where all I would do would be binge, eat, and throw up, and just stay in bed. And because I just didn't know how else to cope. And it definitely got to a point where I was, I had just had enough. I'd had enough, I'd had enough of not wanting to do so many things in my life because I didn't feel like I was good enough. And most of it would come down to the way that I looked. So my self-image and my body image was incredibly, sad. And I was totally disconnected from the truth, which, I can certainly look back now and say everything on my journey has been as it's been perfectly. I grew up in in an area in Melbourne, southeast Melbourne, in Bayside, and when I was growing up, it was a very Anglo area. A lot of my friends were Australian. A lot of them were, I had a lot of blonde friends, but not just, hair color, but they looked different to me. I have an Italian heritage, and, I'm from a curvy, my genes are curvy. My body is not, is not endomorphic. Like I'm not ectomorphic. I'm not, super skinny or anything like that. And my thighs touch. And, I grew up during a time where girls looked like Kate Moss. It was that waif look that was really in, the heroine kind of look. And that was what was being portrayed as, as beautiful. And I certainly wasn't, I was a part of that culture. And as much as I was loved and told that I was beautiful and all of those things, and supported by my family and my friends, and anyone with mental health challengers will tell you that it's not about what is happening, you know, the support, the lack of support that is outside of you, but it's the internal dialogue and the internal struggle that happens. There is this vast emptiness within you and this incredible disconnect to who you really are, that essence of who you are, because you are so busy trying to be perfect for everybody else and everything else that is outside of you. And it's exhausting. And so you can imagine if you're living day in, day out, just trying to be perfect the way someone else might see you, you get to a point in your life where you have absolutely no idea who you are and whether or not you're happy or what you want or anything like that. I was always very good at making friends and, you know, having relationships and things like that because I was great. You know, I remember I had this one manager and he said to me, "You're a chameleon. You're just so good at molding and shaping yourself to fit in with others," and which made me very good at my job, but it made me very disconnected from myself. And so, you know, here I am in my late 20s, really deciding now that, you know, nothing that I had been trying up until this point. So we had, you know, different therapies, and I had started on kind of this path of meditation. And I had one therapist he was amazing, and he taught me mindfulness to begin with, and he started off with that, and then that led me down the path to seeking out other forms of meditation and, you know, spiritual connection in general. So then the next thing that I did was I started going along to a Buddhist center, and I would go along to their meditations once a week, and I started doing yoga, and I started really delving into and exploring. And I also started to play around a little bit more in other sorts of alternative therapy. So I felt like, you know, the Western sort of style of psychology and psychiatry probably wasn't suiting me. Up until, you know, a point, it was so helpful in analyzing and helping me understand what was going on and what bulimia was about and what anxiety was and depression and all of the things that I was experiencing. But it didn't get me, you know, any further. I didn't feel like it was progressing where I wanted to go. And I was really, you know, you've got to remember at this point, I was really determined and ready to kick this in the butt. I didn't want to move into my 30s being the same person that I had been, being the same sad person that I had been. So I then started looking at different alternative medicines and things like that and therapies. I started to I had also been working with an incredible PT, a trainer who was teaching me so much about food and eating and all that sort of stuff. I worked with an incredible nutritionist and naturopath who also, we did, you know, so much gut work and things like that. That was also amazing. And then, you know, I was also seeing a life coach and also a psychologist who had a totally different method of working with and specialized with people who had bulimia. And really they, you know, approached it as an addiction. So we did this beautiful 12-step program together. And then I also started having energy healing, and it absolutely blew my mind. As soon as I had my first session with my mentor and my teacher, you know, we did a combination of Reiki and kinesiology and other sort of frequency methods and energy healing. And it was just amazing. She really invited me into this world and connected me to it. And I straight away just felt like I belonged here. So I was having fortnightly sessions with her for probably around about 2 years, really consistent, really frequent. I was just so committed to working through this stuff, and it was just having an incredible impact and effect on my life. I then, had broken up with a partner who, it wasn't a great relationship, and moved on. And I had met my now husband at the time, and it was incredible to meet someone who, I knew we still had to work through stuff, but it was a different level of commitment between both of us, and it felt like a really mature and adult relationship. And we were really committed to one another, and it was just so beautiful to be able to grow with him, and for him to be really open to my growth and him committing to me as well. And he was super open with all this sort of work. But the only thing was that, he really had trouble sleeping at night. And so it wasn't until we started dating, and then I realized that, this was a really big problem for him. Sleeping was really hard for him, and I wanted to help him. And so I thought I would learn Reiki to actually help him to sleep better. I thought that if I learned Reiki, I could do it like level 1, I knew was for the self and for loved ones. And I thought this would be perfect. I could gift him something and do this to help him sleep and relax. I didn't realize at that point what I was getting myself into. I think I thought that, it was just going to be that. It was just going to be me doing something for him. But the reality is that it completely transformed my life. And I didn't know it then, but as I continued on and connected to this energy, this practice, it started to have more of an impact on my life. And I knew when I was moving into our next phase of our relationship. So we got engaged, we got married, and I was starting to think about things, a lot more than just me, myself, and I, and him. But I started thinking about life with children in it, and, what that would mean, and taking more responsibility for my life. And, I think as you grow up, you have more responsibilities. There's things like mortgages, and there's things like, children, and you have each other as a responsibility. And, it's a lot different. And I knew that Reiki was really about me owning my life and owning that responsibility for who I was and how I was wanting to live. Who it was that I wanted to be, and the type of life that I wanted to create for me, for him, and for our family. And it was so incredible, because when I did level 2, I decided to do it again just to continue my development and my self-growth. I realized just a week after doing level 2 that I was pregnant with my first child. And that, I don't believe in coincidences. Like, that was completely synchronistic. And it started just opening up the door to so many opportunities, and the idea that perhaps I could do this for work and help others. But not only that, I realized just how incredible a gift Reiki is after level 2. I was in that class and I was like, I can't believe that I'm doing this. I can't believe that I'm so intuitive, and I never even knew this about myself. I never believed in it, and I never trusted it. It created this incredible depth in my relationship with myself, and a self-trust and self-belief that I had never experienced before. I was just so ecstatic after finishing that day of training, and I just couldn't wait to share this. And I knew straight away that I would be back for 3A and doing my mastership, because I knew I would. I knew I was a teacher. I knew that I had to teach Reiki. I knew that I had to share this with others, because, not just because we need more practitioners and we need more people helping and teaching Reiki, but I needed to do this because people also need to know how powerful they are. And that's exactly what Reiki has helped me do. Is it's really, truly empowered me. I have this incredible self-belief in that I know that I'm an expression of the divine. I know that I'm here as a gift. I know that I am not a mistake. And, for a very, very long time, I never, ever felt that. I never believed that, not once in my whole life until that point. It didn't matter what someone had told me. It didn't matter, how well I'd done at something or how much money I was earning or anything like that. But what I know now is that I've always had that within me. And the fact that I lost it and simply disconnected from that inner truth and that essence of who I was, I look back at that and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that I ever suffered like that and felt that I was anything less than magnificent. And it doesn't come from this place of, this egoic place or this place of, I think that I'm better or anything like that, or an elated level of confidence and arrogance, but it is confidence. It is exactly that, it is self-belief. It is that connection to I am. It is that connection. I am just as you are. And you are just as I am. We are one and the same. And I know that when I look at the sun, when I look at the moon, when I touch the ground, when I see, Mother Nature's beautiful gifts around me, when I connect to a crystal, I know that there is very little difference, between it and I. Like, we are all connected, and none of this is a mistake. We are here simply to experience this beautiful life that we have, and every single moment that passes will never, ever be experienced again, not exactly in that same way. And that to me is so special. And I have so much gratitude for having a practice like Reiki that connects me to that and reminds me of all of that. So when people ask me what is Reiki, I feel like it's such an incredibly huge question to ask. It's almost like saying, what is God? Something like that. It is so big to explain that. It is everything, because it is unconditional love, and love is everything. It is the experience of all of that as well. There is this life force energy in everything. So no matter what you touch, no matter, who you are and where you're going or where you're from, and it doesn't matter, like, you're a part of this universe. And because of that, you have access to this life force energy. You are this incredible energetic force, of nature. And you have this incredible right to be here and a right to experience whatever it is that you're here to experience and whatever it is that you want to experience. The only thing that ever holds us back is ourselves, because everything is available and accessible to us. It is only our own personal limitation that holds us back. Reiki has helped me believe in something more than myself as well, in terms of, I know that I am connected to everything and anything. I also know that I am deeply, deeply supported and guided and protected. I know that I am, I'm always going to be okay. Like there's nothing that ever consumes me with so much worry and anxiety. And I think that's also shifted because I'm so aware of those sensations and those feelings now. I mentioned earlier that I was super disconnected from my body as well. And, one of the things that Reiki has taught me is to connect very regularly, connecting daily to this practice to help me understand even where my energy is at, where am I feeling? What are my emotions today? Am I feeling low? Am I feeling sensitive? Am I feeling empowered? Where am I at on that scale? And what do I need today to support myself? And perhaps what do I need to surround myself with? And what do I need to ask for? What do I need to believe instead? Where am I at right now? And what do I need instead? And, as well as that, it's everything, right? It's knowing that everything around you is going to impact that frequency wherever you're at. So, just as it might be, well, today I need to be off social media because I know that if I go on there, it's going to affect me a lot more than it would normally. As well as I know I need to eat certain foods today so that they don't trigger me and so that I don't spiral into this, place where I'm starting to feel even more grief or more sadness or more anxiousness or whatever it might be. So it's about picking and choosing those lifestyle choices as well. And you get to do that when you are connecting to a practice on a day-to-day level. As a practitioner, my students hear me say this all the time, but I don't think there is any excuse for a practitioner not to be connecting to Reiki on a daily basis, because, and certainly not before, and certainly before holding client sessions, because and I would say even doing work in general, like whenever you are posting content or you are creating content or something like that, if you are not working through your energy, connecting to your energy, noticing where you're at, and spiritually having that hygiene, that energetic hygiene, you are kind of leaving yourself open to be really impacted and affected. I think that we can only do that for ourselves. It's great to go and see practitioners frequently. I put my hand up and tell you that I went fortnightly for so long, for 2 years, and I still go at least every 4 weeks. I have a healing session with one of my healers, and depending on what I need, I will, go to the various practitioner that I need. I think it's really important that we have support and guidance. I don't believe in, working alone. I don't think we're self-sufficient. We're human, and we're not meant to do this life alone at all. But I think that it's so important for us to have some sort of practice where we are connecting regularly with ourselves. And I think that our frequency changes so much day to day that, think about how many emotions you experience in the one day. Even in an hour, right, you experience so much. So if you're not connecting to yourself and understanding where you're at and respecting and honoring that and honoring your needs and that self-care, how can you live your best life? How do you do that? You just can't. You simply can't. How do you know if something doesn't feel safe enough for you to manifest? How do you know that that abundance is available to you, but you're not accessing it because that doesn't feel good for you, because, you know, it brings up a certain emotion or a certain feeling. So I think bringing in that physical work, the somatic work, into the Reiki practice is super important. I think that a Reiki can completely change everybody's life, but I don't think it will, because there are also, well, firstly, you know, it's not going to resonate with everyone as a healing modality, as a spiritual modality. But also it is a lifestyle. It is a practice that you have to work at. It's not something that you can just do once and you know, hope for the best. You know, hope that it will completely change you and completely shift. It's like sweeping the floor. That's the best way to explain it. You know, you don't vacuum or sweep the floor in your home and expect that it's never going to be dusty or dirty again. We are constantly vibrating, shifting, moving, you know, experiencing life, and things are always going to continue to manifest and come up. And we are such complex creatures, you know, and the beautiful thing about Reiki is that things come up when we're ready to experience it. So this is why it's such a gentle and, you know, I guess non-invasive complementary therapy that many people use with other things, because it has this way of gently moving you into the place where you need to be, where you need to go. And I think that's also what I love about it, is there's no, you know, it's not really pushing you to go somewhere where you're not ready to go and bring up things that perhaps you're not ready to bring up and deal with. Although things will still come up, it's done in a way where, you know, you have this ability to really to gently work through it as well. And very often we don't even know what things are being brought up or what is being transmuted and shifted and let go. And that is so beautiful as well, because we don't need to know, right? We just trust in that incredible wisdom of Reiki. So I think that's one of the other amazing things about it, is that it doesn't matter where you are in your life or what is happening. You can kind of have as an intense a session as you want, or as gentle a session as you want. And it's really up to you. You know, you're the driver of your own treatment, which is just so powerful. But it helps support in any way that, you know, you need it in your life, whether that be I need more clarity and focus, I'm feeling, you know, empty and I feel stuck, or I don't feel connected to myself, or, you know, I'm lacking that vitality or energy, things like that. It brings you back. It reconnects you to you. It brings you back to your inner truth. It helps you sleep. It helps you calm. It helps you feel like you are, you know, like you can actually relax and let go of things. It helps you surrender to understand that there is something bigger than you, that you don't need to worry. It helps you be in that frequency of gratitude, of joy, of abundance and love. It is an abundant energetic source. So it is going to guide you into that incredible place. There is just so many benefits to it. There, you know, of course, it is energetic hygiene, spiritual hygiene as well. It helps manage your you know, your fears, your worries, concerns, all of that sort of stuff. It will also help you to manage your emotional pain and physical pain as well. It's an incredible mindfulness kind of practice too. And, you know, many people enjoy it because it's not about stilling the mind. There's no, you know, there's no need just to let to have a blank mind or focus on one mantra or anything like that. It's not like a meditation, although it is a type of meditation, but it is it can be a lot more accessible for people and a lot easier for people to learn because of that reason, because it does have that body connection. It can be really grounding as well, but it can also be super elative and, ecstatic and bring you into those places of bliss. It can help you to access, different, I guess, gifts that you have and your intuition and those sorts of things as well. There are just, so many different benefits. And if you are working with the chakra system, you can really connect to your chakras and even your body parts and connect with those and send them love and ask them what is going on and, really get to know who you are and what you need as well. Just so many beautiful benefits of learning Reiki. And certainly, as you can see, it is something that really evolves as you continue your practice and deepen your own practice. And as a practitioner, if you decide to share Reiki with others as well, and, whether it be loved ones or clients as well, if you go on to complete studies through that, there is just this incredible opportunity then to deepen your practices as well and with others and helping them in different ways and bringing other things into your sessions and working a lot more intuitive. And yeah, it's just so much fun. And, I think one of the benefits with practicing Reiki is that it doesn't actually deplete you in any way. Like it's not going to, it shouldn't really use up your energy. So this is why a lot of practitioners love to do it as well, because it's just something that I can do for you. And, help you to shift into a high state of consciousness to feel love and to feel loved and to remember that you are love. But I can do that in the most gentle and compassionate way. And it's not taking up my own energy as well. So as you can see, just there's so many incredible benefits. And, these are just some of the ways that it has totally changed my life. I also don't think that you need to do it as a career to reap the benefits. I just think that you have to be open and willing to bring Reiki into your life. And, if you are a little bit afraid of coming out of the spiritual closet or being too woo-woo and things like that, I think that, one of the amazing things is that today, most people have heard of meditation or doing some sort of spiritual practice, whether it be, or energy practices, whether that be yoga or meditation or, otherwise. And I think that Reiki is just, it just falls into that beautiful, that same sphere. And I think that we're being more and more enabled to just own that authentic part of who we are. And, it's becoming just as important to look after our spiritual self, our mental, emotional self, our energy self, as much as, our physical health as well. I hope you've enjoyed this little journey with me. And if you have any questions, or if you've got any ideas or anything that you would like me to talk about more of, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a most beautiful day.